So as I was telling Mix, I actually developed my own desirability scale to make it more intuitive for myself. So that's another piece of advice for guys. You should be looking at candidates for your own purposes. It shouldn't be based upon anything external or what someone else has or in comparison to someone else. So as I was saying, I'm a very esoteric soul. So for me, the normal rating scale of 1 to 10, for me, 10 is perfection. And since we're human beings, none of us are perfect.
Talk about it.
In my mindset, there are no 10s. That's including myself. And we all know how highly I rate myself.
Josh, I think you're a perfect 10.
I'm a 9.
No, I think that is brilliant. And I think that, one, it's also a fail-safe. Because a lot of folks are like, oh, my gosh, I need to find the perfect guy. Or I need to find the perfect girl. And, again, there's no such thing. Now, we're always striving for perfection, realizing that we'll never meet that mark. Because no one can be perfect who's a human being. However, I think that's brilliant. And I think that, folks always play the game. They always want to rate on a scale of 1 to 10. On a scale of 1 to 10. And it's almost like if you ever judged a competition, usually the first person who goes, standard protocol is that they automatically get a 7. They automatically get a 7 because there has to be a benchmark.
Right, okay.
There has to be a benchmark because if someone who comes who's dynamic, you can't. If you give them a 10 to start off with, then what is this person who is better than them? Where do they come? So unfortunately, it's tough to go first because sometimes, unless you blow it out the water, but it's tough to go first because sometimes folks made up in their mind, you know what, we have a long night. We have a number of different contestants. The benchmark has to be 7. We're going to set the tone here. You either have to be better than the first person or you're going to be worse than the first person.
Exactly. That's very interesting. And I feel even worse for American Idol hopefuls if that's the case. Wow. But yeah, the 9 scale, what I like to call the cloud 9 scale.
I like that.
If you will. Break it up into 3 essential categories of what I'm looking for. Mind, body, and spirit, all realms of existence.
Love
so
it.
covering the basis.
Love it.
So mind, you can get a score of 1 to 3. If you're as intelligent and as smart as you claim, ladies, then you should easily get a 3 in that, right? And being able to illustrate that, but that also includes emotional intelligence as well, because as an Aquarian, I feel like we value that higher than anything else.
Well, I'm about to nerd out for a couple of reasons.
All right.
I worked in admissions, post-secondary and secondary admissions, and we always had ratings, and we would have a point system.
Right.
And we would have different categories. So, for example, our alma mater, for example, I'm not sure if they do it like that now. I'm just saying what I did when I was there, disclaimer. However, we looked at athletics, we looked at academics, extracurricular, and personal.
Right.
And the reason why we did this is because we realized that when you curate a class, you need a balance. You need those folks who are going to be dedicated to the books, dedicated to their studies. You need folks who are going to add in other spaces, such as extracurriculars, which includes drama, clubs, athletics. And you also need folks who are going to be bridge builders, those who are going to be the glue, those who are going to be the leaders, the strong citizens of the school. So that's where the personal rating comes in. And when we add that up, we can see exactly who might be the star athletes, who might be the strong academics, and who might be the folks who are really holding the school together in terms of their caliber and their character. And I think that's brilliant that you've assembled a same type of rating system for a person, mind, body, and spirit, realizing that, guess what? One may mean more to you. And if that's all checked out, you might be able to deal with lower rankings. Because, for example, a 9 all a 3 in each of them. But if you, let's just say you had a 7, right? I'm willing to bet. I'm willing to bet, knowing you, all 7s aren't created equal.
Exactly.
Because there's a scale now. So you might have a 7 that has 3 in body and has 3 in mind, but not in spirit.
Whoa.
They might have 1 in spirit, right?
That doesn't.
However, you might say to yourself, right? Body, you can change, but what you got now, it's like you can sustain that, maintain that. Mind, what you got now, I like it, which means that we could work with that. And if you have a strong mind, maybe we can improve that spirit.
Right.
So some categories might be easier to improve than others. So what I'm saying is all 7s probably aren't created equal in that system, which is brilliant because if you know what you're looking for and if you know what means more to you, let's just say body means the most to you. You probably don't care whether it's spirit or mind. Like which one's going to be less as long as body has 3.
Right. And for some reason, I bet girls will be saying things like, oh, as long as she has a 3 body and, 1 mind, I'm sure that'll be okay for you.
No.
Well, it depends on the night, ladies, obviously. But also, in terms of what I'm actually looking for, I'm looking for someone to make all other women irrelevant. Because like you said, even from your perspective as a married man, it is exhausting. It's even exhausting for you to even think about, let alone
100%.
experience.
Yes. And I think that's critical for you to say that you're looking for someone to make all women irrelevant is critical because, again, I think men fall victim to the fact that there's so much temptation. And there is so much temptation for everybody, don't get me wrong. But the numbers, again, are stacked in our favor as men, particularly if we're talking about us and our experiences. There's a lot of women out there, and many of which I'm sure will be 9s. And, we are who we are. There's not much we can change about ourselves. There's things that we can grow and change, but it's like, I'm not going to become Shamar Moore overnight. Although, I think, I can take a Shamar Moore. But anyway, I'm not going to be that.
I don't know.
I'm not going to be an Idris Alba.
Well,
you know what I mean?
You've had, you got your nutrition going on. You never know.
I'm working out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Give me a couple months. Give me a couple months. But
next summer, be on the lookout.
Next summer we out here. But again, making sure that this woman that you're going to commit your life to, there's not a single doubt in your mind that she's the only one, period. And that's how I feel. It's like you find, and again, that's why I say it's a choice.
Right.
It's a choice. And I think folks need to feel empowered with that choice. You don't have to settle. Some folks think they have to. And guess what? You can't get mad for settling because you chose to settle. I don't think you're not forced to settle. And some folks are afraid of being single more than they are a bad relationship.
Right.
So I think this system that you have in place is clear. It's a good guideline and blueprint for people to vet people thoroughly and carefully and fairly. And it's something to keep you honest and accountable too.
1,000%, because I'll be honest, as of right now, I have no interest in a relationship. Mm-hmm. However, I'm also open to it because, as you pointed out to me, I didn't even, wasn't aware of this about myself. I am a bit of a hopeless romantic. Yes. So I'm always going to be open to that adventure. I'm never going to turn that down, especially as adventurous as I am. However, I'm also at the age where I'm not going to rush into something. And a lot of the ladies out there have a mindset of demanding things without actually earning it. Mm-hmm. And comes that entitlement, and that's never going to get you a 9.
100%, and I agree with that. And I think in your category of spirit, if I'm you, I think I know you pretty well.
Sure.
I would say that whole adventurous nature and spirit falls in the spirit section. I'm sure spirituality things like nature too, but I would say the fact that you can be a kindred spirit with you who likes to travel, who likes to explore, wanderlust, etc. I think that would be in that space. Body is probably also nutrition, thinking about exactly how they take care of their body, if your body's really your temple. And then also, if you look good, you know what I mean? And then the mind piece is like, can she read? Can she write? Can she communicate? Does she have a way of communicating with me to the point where we can avoid a lot of arguments?
It's so true, and that's why I feel like all those things, at least for me, are paramount because those are the things necessary to raise the next generation. And I'm not sure about you, but I think the world would be a lot better place with more of Josh in it.
Listen, I couldn't agree more. I think that is very true. So, ladies out there, if you want to create more Joshes, think about it. No, but seriously though, I think that we have to be serious, intentional, deliberate, honest whenever we're thinking about a potential suitor to spend the rest of your life with. That's nothing to play with. It's not. Like, it's real out here. And going on 6 years of marriage, you better pick the right one.
Exactly.
You better pick the right one.
And if that right one doesn't have patience, again, you're never going to get a 3 for mentality. I mean, come on. A lot of girls nowadays have zero patience. I want this right now. And then they're going to start stomping your feet and then treating you like a mama's boy, like, up, let's go.
Mm-hmm.
And then I realized how, just from observing, that if you think about the type of woman who would be, let's say, masculine and demonstrative,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like that lady who was on the airplane recently. I think it was yesterday, actually.
Okay.
Actually, so we'll play the video right
Okay.
now.
Yeah.
And then, then we can respond to it.
Shut the Yeah, you better believe that I wear the for the public. You want to look at other women? You ain't gonna look at other women, and you ain't gonna tell me you're looking at other women.
And we have a little child right behind you.
Yeah, I know. I consult the child.
There's a little boy right behind you.
I already know.
But,
I'm not gonna say nothing if you don't say nothing to try to cause a commotion, because he's a problem. You want to try to so shut the You want to when we get home.
bring your bag to the front of the
I'm not bringing my bag to the what? If I gotta bring my bag, I'm not ever gonna see you again. I swear to God, don't you ever come to my house. Call the police on you. Oh, really?
You're going out of
I'm gonna prison right now. You shut the
All right, Sarah, you're come up with us.
No. Oh, you gonna come up?
Yeah, man, I'm getting up, man. Get off. You're assaulting me, man.
Oh, I'm assaulting you?
Yeah.
Here,
know you like
I'm
that,
assaulting you?
Nope.
I'm gonna get my purse.
Are you okay?
Wanna say I'm assaulting you? Memo? Ma'am. Yeah, I'm going over there.
You're gonna be charged with assault.
Fine, whatever. Oh, yeah, memo?
But wow, as you guys saw, men are dealing with a lot of demonstrative, disrespectful women. And as you can see, there's zero accountability there. But I can't believe I'm saying this. To her defense, she didn't just wake up or, was out the womb being like that, behaving like that. That was built up over time from essentially just being a bully and no one checking her. So, and unfortunately, this is where society is headed with the amount of talk about equality, but zero talk about accountability.
100%. And I mean, I think it reminds me of the saying of never argue with a foolish person, because a person who's looking from the outside doesn't know which one is the fool, right? I think whenever we're looking at situations from the outside, we never know the story. Unless we're like intimately involved in a situation, we know the backstory. We never know the story. We don't know what provoked her. We don't know why she got that angry. We don't know if she always has to deal with his nonsense about looking at other women. But he could have just cheated. We don't know. However, flip side, if the shoe was on the other foot and he did that to her for looking at another man, folks wouldn't be like, well, we don't know why. We don't know what the story is. We don't know exactly what's going on. This might not be the first time she's done that. I think they might automatically jump to the fact that he's a man and say it's unacceptable. I think either way is unacceptable.
Exactly.
But I think, again, intellectual inconsistency. We can't have one thing be wrong, but then when the roles are reversed, that it's fine or understandable or it's okay, particularly if we talk about equality.
I mean, just think if it was a man, it could be a black man, white man, any ethnicity man. If it was a man and they were behaving that same way and hitting people in the head with laptops, at minimum, tasers.
And that's very true. I mean, you know what? And I don't know if you had a chance to see the clip. It's a disgusting clip.
The one at Disney?
Yes. Oh my goodness. The I would say the assault and onslaught. First of all, don't get me started. That's another conversation for another day.
Mm-hmm.
But if you've seen the fight at Disneyland, where that guy was out of control,
Right.
I think he's out of control 100% for so many reasons, so many levels. But you have to see all the people who were involved, the choices they made, and even some of the folks who chose to put themselves in the situation continuously. Even folks who he called his, other word for it, but his girl or whatever. Like, it was crazy. I bring that situation up because, again, I think the unfortunate part about this world we live in now, where folks do things for likes, and YouTube has been both a gift and a curse because things go viral.
Right.
And instead of folks stopping or intervening, and some folks did, one dude put him in a chokehold and really made sure that he would stop for a second.
Yeah.
And he did. So he stopped the situation before it escalated further. But I think folks are quick to pull out their cell phone as opposed to trying to intervene and stop. And there were a lot of folks around who could have formed a wall around people or whatever and said, yo, stop. Go back that way. But folks are just bringing out their cameras and they're posting it because they're like, oh, I got to make sure that I can post this, make it go viral and get likes. They don't care about what's happening. They don't want things to be solved or resolved. So again, when we look at all these situations, we all have our own biases. We all would react, whether it was a woman hitting a man and a man hitting a woman. We're going to react differently. We definitely are because we have biases, for better or for worse, whatever reasons I lived experiences. But you have to ask that question. Is it a double standard? Is it okay? You have to ask those questions.
It's very interesting. That actually reminds me of the Black Mirror episode where there were two criminals and they recreated the scene of the crime and actually put the criminals in the situation of the victims. And they were asking other people for help and they were just recording with their camera.
Wow.
So it was very, it was very interesting.
Yep, 100%. 100%. I mean, and that's the culture we've become. Again, I think that in a capitalistic society, which has become infatuated with instant gratification, instant entertainment, where folks could literally become a viral sensation for a dance they did or for a joke they made or a Vine they did or a Snap they did, morals in a lot of different ways are going out the window. And I would argue that there's two things that are really at play. Maybe more, but two things. The more and more folks become intellectual, they've shown that more and more folks become intellectual or gain educational attainment, the further they remove themselves from any type of deity.
Right.
The further they remove themselves from any type of religion or acknowledging that there is a supreme being. Additionally, because character is out the window, but being a character is in the window now. It's like, forget your character if you have any morality. We want you to be a character or a caricature of who you are. And that's going to get you likes. That's going to get you followers. That's going to get you subscribers. That's going to get you hits. And you're going to be making money.
Yeah, they're following the D-list celebrity playbook.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yes. Yes. And, because, again, whatever's good usually has a bad side. So you think about the internet, you think about social media. If I wanted to, I could become a SoundCloud rapper tonight.
Woo!
Know what I mean?
Bars.
Spit them. I can become a SoundCloud rapper tonight. I can start it tonight. Doesn't mean I'm going to be a good rapper. No. But I can do that, have that access, have that power. All you need is an internet subscription in a lot of different ways. You have access to these things. So the world has been open in a lot of different ways. Unfortunately, the world's been open to show so much nonsense, and we see so much nonsense. So we have to ask ourselves, is this new? No, it's not new. It's just being caught on camera. Same thing with police brutality, etc. These things have always been happening. It's just now being caught on camera. So folks have always been acting a fool. Folks have always been abusive. Folks have always been practicing double standards. It's just now caught on tape.
And then the cognitive dissonance becomes conscious cognitive dissonance, because you can't really argue with that.
No.
Especially if it's on video.
No, you can't. But the sad thing is that folks still do. And that's where the power and the privilege comes in. It's like, no, I don't see it, because everybody wants to spin something.
Right.
Or everyone wants to frame something. Or you use your bully pulpit to say whatever you want to say, or you get folks to really like get on your side because you're trying to give them the facts. Just by calling something a fact, you can make someone think it's a fact.
Right.
Facts. Right?
On facts.
On facts. So I just don't understand why in a society, it's crazy, because we in America in particular, we argue about ideas. Like, this used to be a country of ideas, I think. Like, when we were growing, even slavery was an idea. A terrible one, a despicable one, but slavery was an idea. And they said, we're going to make as much money as possible and not lift a finger unless it's to crack a whip. It's crazy. So this used to be a land of ideas. Now, no one cares about ideas. It's just money, period. Money, 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 money. So that means exposure. That means all publicity is good publicity. That means I'm going to go viral. Folks are doing things to go viral. Like, literally.
The Kardashian effect.
My goodness. Like, when is it going to stop? My thing is, folks are worried about socialism. I'm worried about social mediaism. Like, that's what I'm worried about, because honestly, it's destroying the fabric of who we are as a people.
It's true. And I'm actually concerned for future sons, because I feel like we're leading to a point where they're going to grow up in an era where it's viewed as blasphemous to question anything logical someone else says just because they're a man, which doesn't make any sense.
That's a great point. So again, I'm in education, and I started a group or a committee called the Educating Boys Committee, something that one of my former colleagues and I did at my former institution, well, now our former institution. And it was really about exploring those who identify as boys, their experiences going through the school, navigating the school, being a male, and the trials, tribulations, and the triumphs they may face, right? And the reason why we're doing that is because we realized that the way that those who identified as women, I'm not just making it binary, but those who identified as women or girls, experience school differently than the one who identified as boys. Namely, we were talking about the idea of hidden curriculum. And the hidden curriculum was really like white, feminist, liberal. And if you didn't fit that mold, you had a hard time navigating that school. You would probably get in trouble more often. You would probably be bored in school because they're not doing things that pertain to you. You wouldn't see yourself represented in the curriculum. You wouldn't be able to be a man or a boy at recess.
Right.
So the things that so folks are so quick to turn their finger at toxic masculinity. But you have to ask yourself, how did the masculinity become toxic? When you're raising folks who are not allowed to express themselves, what makes you think they're going to express their emotions or their true feelings? I've heard instances of students telling me, boy students, males, telling me that girls laughed at them when they cried in class doing a presentation talking about how important their mother meant to them. They were considered to be weak. They were looked at as weak. So it's like, okay, you don't want me to cry and show emotion. You don't want me to be weak. But then if I'm over here being a womanizer, that's an issue too. And there is no in between. You want me to be a womanizer sometimes and then be weak? Like, when can I be me? And I'm not saying that this is a situation that all men and all boys and all folks are dealing with, but it's something that folks often overlook. And the more and more it becomes overlooked, the more toxic masculinity you will have, and I guarantee it.
That's true. And it's only serving to confuse the younger generations. Mm-hmm. So they have no reason to listen to any of us at all, because we're contradicting ourselves constantly. And that's the one thing that we're doing consistently. So here we are supposed to be the adults and the mentors of the younger minds, and yet they're making more logical and mature decisions and conceptualizing things better than we are.
Yeah, and here's the issue. You said it like brilliantly, but the issue is this: folks are like kids growing up these days. They're dealing with the same stuff you and I dealt with, but at a much earlier age.
Mm-hmm.
We went to boarding school. We might have been facing these things maybe like at the end of middle school, probably 7th grade, starting 7th grade, but definitely high school.
Right.
Kids these days are dealing with the same stuff we dealt with, which were like life-defining moments. 3rd grade.
Really?
4th grade. Like, talk about drama. Like, they're dealing with these type of things, the same things you and I face with, whether it's navigating, how to be a boy, whether it's navigating how to talk to or engage with the opposite sex without being accused of X, Y, and Z by your boys or your girls, etc. Right?
Right.
But they're dealing with these. They're facing these strong life occurrences that are going to help them grow, and it comes with puberty, etc. Like, they're experiencing that at an earlier point of time, and they don't have a blueprint, and they don't have folks giving them, and they're receiving mixed messages. Whether they watch the news, whether they watch TV, whether they're watching certain superhero cartoons, whether they're watching certain movies or reading certain comic books, whatever the case may be, they're getting all these mixed messages about what it means to be a boy, or what is masculinity. Is it even okay to be masculine, or is all masculinity toxic?
Right.
There's so many questions out there, and there are not answers for them because, one, a lot of times, in school settings, there are not many men. There are not many men who are teachers. And usually they're left to figure it out on their own. And along the way, they're getting suspended. They're being told that they have ADHD. They're being disciplined and punished in different ways.
They're being socially shamed for being boys.
Socially shamed for being boys, exactly. And it's like, you know what? In order for me to survive this academic prison, this institution, I'm going to have to be institutionalized and make it out of here. And that has a huge impact on young minds and their growth and development. You're stunted. So you're either forced not to be a man or you're forced to grow up real quick. Either way, your body's being policed in a way that's not right.
It's true. And last time I checked, people shouldn't have the power to control other people's bodies or minds.
100% I agree.
And yet, here we are.
Here we are.
Sure, they got me brainless. AI, 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 and I don't understand it. AI, I don't know. Yeah, yeah.